Hello, I'm Paul Pfeiffer. I'm the CFO at ATS. I'm back to do another video, but this time I want to focus on the drivers as we head into 2024. So first, for all the men and women out there that are driving our roads every single day, you guys are the lifeblood of our industry and you keep us safe on the roads. I just want to thank you. Let's talk though about 2024 and what it has in store for the drivers. Now, I'm going to flip back to 2023 and say that while the US economy avoided recession in 2023, the transportation industry did not. We were in all of 2023 in a freight recession and continue to be in a freight recession as we kick off 2024. Three main items that led to that situation. The first is on the demand side. Look, people are still spending money, but they're doing it on more experiential items like vacations and hotels and airlines and restaurants, and not on the durable goods that travel on a truck. Second is, as that demand dropped, the resulting supply of trucks that are out there to move that lower amount of freight was just too much. And then third, inflation. Yes, it is real, and it is pushing up costs that's squeezing both the carriers and the drivers. So as we look into 2024 then, what's going to happen? Well, we've been in this downturn now, in this freight recession, for over 20 months. That's not typical for our industry. On average, generally, you're going to see those downturns last around 12 months before rates start to respond or rebound. And we've been in it again over 20. So if I start with the macro picture on the economic side, what's going to happen in the US? When I look at the fundamentals, everything points to things are slowing down, and I do think there is going to be a recession middle part of the year, or at least a significant slowdown. When you look at what's happening on the business side, they've been so crushed by rising costs that business fixed investment has receded 3 quarters in a row. In the first 2 quarters of 2024, they're expected to be in negative growth territory. And then the US consumer drives 2/3 of the GDP in the US. And what are they doing? They're spending, but they're spending on credit. So the interest on those balances and the default rates are all rising at pretty rapid rates. To me, the combination of those things is just leading us to a spot where there is either going to be a recession the mid part of the year, or at minimum, a significant slowdown. So what's all that going to mean for the transportation industry? Well, I go back to my same 4 things: demand, supply, cost, and rates. First, from a demand standpoint, it is going to remain depressed for all of 2024. Just look at the manufacturers who manufacture goods, and then the outlets that sell those goods and the companies that sell those goods. Well, neither party are building any inventories. So that level of demand, again, I think is going to stay depressed. Now, on the supply side, it's unfortunate, but we have had trucks departing the industry. They just can't handle it with the lower level of freight and the increasing costs. In the first 2 quarters of a year, which are generally the more seasonal slow times, we're going to see additional capacity being driven out of the industry, unfortunately. Third area, on the cost side, yes, inflation is real and costs continue to go up. In our industry specifically, the cost of buying a truck is greater and continues to rise, and the cost to maintain the truck, both based on labor and parts inflation, are continuing to push it up. Another category that's going to rise significantly this year is insurance. So for the 4th category, rates, what's that going to mean? Well, on the rate standpoint, the good thing is that spot rates did bottom out in 2023 and edged up ever so slightly. Now, to start off 2024, this is usually the first half of the year is a pretty heavy time for shippers to go out and redo their contracts, put out bids, and we're seeing a level of activity that's above and beyond what it even normally is at this time of year, as shippers look to get further rate concessions. The problem with that is going to be because there's such a big upward pressure on the cost side for carriers and drivers, it's going to reach a point where they won't be able to take those rate concessions, any longer. And so even if they get locked in at a contract rate, there will be a point in time that freight can't get moved, and that volume is going to have to shift out of the contract world and back into the spot world. My best guess is that that's happening in the 3rd quarter of 2024. So we'll see some more rate activity and increases in the spot rates, but it won't be till the back half. of the year. So what are my final takeaways for the drivers? Doesn't matter whether you're living the American dream and you have your own operating authority and you run your own business, or if you're running for a fleet. There's two things that I would look at. The first is making sure that you have a stable source of freight. Now, the larger carriers in our industry that have been through these cycles and they've got a long history, they generally have better access to a more diverse set of customers and larger set of shippers. But if you're running your own authority, you can still access those larger carriers and maintain your own operating authority, as many of those companies have their own apps to be able to get out and look at their freight. The second thing I would look at is watch your costs and control what you can control. Controlling your fuel costs and using less idle is a way that you can reduce your costs. Well, one of the things that you can do is you can look at an APU investment, and whether that's you're running your own authority and you go out and invest in an APU, or make sure you're with a fleet that has an APU option. It's a way that you can lower that fuel cost yet still keep comfortable when you're out on the road. That's all I've got for you. I hope it helps. Thank you again for all that you do, and be safe in 2024.